This is me and my motorcycle. And this is Thomas and his motorcycle. We have decided to go on a road trip this spring. His Yamaha Tenere is in excellent condition. My old Cagiva, not so much. I have a long list of things I need to do. Can I manage to get it fixed in time to the trip? It's a really beautiful day today. You can still see it's snow in the mountains, but the motorcycle season, it's getting closer. And it smells beautiful. What smells better than a freshly painted motorcycle part? Looks good. Yes. And that was a detachable part of the frame, and it goes here. It's a really smart solution, makes it so easy to get access to the engine. It was very rusted, especially here where the foot peg and the brake master cylinder is to be attached. Both of these are cleaned up now, and I do not want to put them back on a rusted mount. I have also painted these rear sprockets. It had a pale blue color originally, or it's not the original sprocket. I don't think it suited the bike, so yeah, I painted it black. And I've 3D printed this tiny, small plug. Perhaps the smallest 3D print I have ever made. I noticed it was missing here as I was cleaning the frame. And that was 3 small repairs successfully done. And that is not great at all, because they were not even on my to-do list. I have to be more disciplined from now on, or I'll never be done with this bike in time. So whatever unplanned task that might pop up from now on, I have to add it at the bottom of the list, and I'll focus on the prioritized one. I have made some progress though. In the last episode, I removed rust from a lot of parts, like this one, and I have since that successfully zinc plated all of them. And I have to say, yeah, it was a bit more fiddly than I thought. So let me take you upstairs and show you the process I ended up with. I have prepared these 2 extra bolts, or I have prepared one of them. Just used my grinder with a wire wheel on it. Made it rust free. So then upstairs, and I'll show you exactly how I did it. And by the way, I did a terrible miscalculation in my previous video. Of course, 1 square centimeter is 100 square millimeters. So the formula I presented to calculate the amperage to set on the plating based on the surface area was totally off. In many ways, I have a new improved one now. And I have expanded my setup to a 4-stage, should I say, procedure. And I think it worked pretty well. These boxes, perfect size. They are 12.5 liters per box. And even the lids are useful because it gets a bit messy with all the water and the sink part, electrolyte bath here. Ooh, the smell. These lids works like plates, so you can put thing on. I had it something like this. Here is the part I am gonna plate. This is my degreaser with acetone. This is distilled water for rinsing. Here is the electrolyte bath. That's vinegar acid and salt. And then it's just rinsing the parts when you're done. This is just tap water. The way I did it was, of course, to prepare the electrolyte first. I need the zinc anodes into them. They are pretty gray now, but they worked a lot longer than I thought. When they are dark enough, I went downstairs and grinded them shiny. They are pretty dark here now. Let's see if they still work. These are positive powered with the red colored wire. These are like the ones that are sending the zinc into the electrolyte. Then it's the part that needs to be plated. Prepare a lot of these copper wires. Best if you can hang them up from the middle of the part. I must tell you, once I used 2 wires at each end to hold it. That didn't work at all. Didn't plate. Sometimes the plate just stick to one side. It was quite experimenting where to put the wire to get the best result. What I figured out was put the wire most in the center of the piece and put the piece in parallel with the 2 zinc anodes. I have not prepared a separate bath for the acetone. I just used a cloth. I never had problems with the parts not being clean enough. To rinse off any potential dirt, I've used a whole 1 liter of the vinegar and 2 liters of distilled water. So it's approximately 4% vinegar. I'm just using a box here to tilt it. So if I have a long part, I can use the whole size. Now I just have this small one. I can just dip it here. And then I take the negative lid and I just fix around with everything so it's aligned. Very nice if you get everything in parallel and the equal distance from all the part. When I'm putting in power, I noticed that if things are not aligned, some parts get more zinc than other. So to get a even and nice surface, make sure everything has the equal distance to the zinc parts and the metal parts. Then it's calculating how much power I need. And my new formula is to calculate the surface either in square centimeters or square millimeters, and then you divide it by 10 if you calculate in millimeters, or you multiply by 10 if you calculate in centimeters. So I have calculated this bolt, and it's not that important to get it perfect. It's approximately, I just take the bolt, add a bit extra centimeters because the head is bigger, so I take the length of the bolt. The threads also creates more surface, so I take half of the threads. So this bolt is really 5 centimeters, but if you add up extra for the head and extra for the thread, I say 8 centimeters. Multiply it with the diameter, that's M8 bolt, and multiply it with pi. So this ends up with 20 square centimeters or 2000 square millimeters. So that means 200 in amperage. Hope that made sense. Then just make sure nothing is shorted. Positive, negative, everything is ready. And I turn it on. And you will immediately see it starts almost like boiling. Sometimes I have increased the amperage with 1 to 200. Just seeing how much it bubbles. Then it's just to wait 20 minutes. I have an air compressor and I use this small hose. Added the hose into the bath to get some bubbles. Some theory about bubbles could help to get an even surface. I didn't notice any difference. Perhaps if you have a very strange part and bubbles from the plating can be stuck underneath, then adding air or circulation could make them break and make sure that constantly are coming zinc to the part. Sometimes I'm turning it around if I can see that some parts has not been plated. Sometimes I take it off, put the ground cable in a different spot. It's not that much to it, but when you are doing this a whole day, it gets a bit messy with water, and you get pretty bored of the vinegar smell. Also, I need to open up the windows. Here, open up the door, make sure I'm not sitting here too long with these fumes. Probably not good. So that's it. Any questions, let me know and I'll try to help out. So this is all the equipment here is bought from Biltema, local hardware store here in Norway, except for the salt. This is Epsom salt. I think I have 200 grams of salt. I think maybe I'll pump it up to 400. It doesn't really bubbles that much. So my formula is a starting point, and then you can pump it up from there. All right, time to walk downstairs and take a look at the pieces I already prepared. It's so very nice to have all the parts rust protected, zinc coated, but it's not just good news. As you can see, the surface finish is not that pretty. It's a grayish matte surface, and yeah, not really the end result you want to put on your bike. So I need to put on something on top of this. And what I will be using, different kind of paint, or just polish it, oil it. As I did more research during this project, I found that what I really should have done is to have one extra set of plating called passivation or chromation. And that is an extra set of chemicals that will give a protective layer on top of the zinc. And that is often with a specific color and maybe with more shine to it, and also have a harder, more protective surface. Because the zinc isn't that hard. Eventually it might wear off. Also, pure zinc might also rust, something called white rust. And by the way, I have to mention, there is one problem with this plating. That is, if you can see inside here, you can see bare metal. The zinc has really a problem sticking to inside of things. Same here, and it goes with almost all the parts here. Even if you can see hex bolts, when it comes to this small hole here, the zinc doesn't want to go inside there. I did with one of these, I managed. I took here you can see a piece of the zinc I have been using. I sliced a very small thin piece of it, and I managed to get it in between of this, and then I managed to get zinc on both sides. But it was a really cumbersome process trying to get the zinc into all the small corners and inside of holes. So that is really a limitation with this process. If you have any suggestions on how to solve that, let me know. Some of the parts I have decided to take the wheel bolt, washer and the nut. I will just oil it, polish it with oil to get more like a metal finish look and see how well it lasts against rust. It's the easiest part to just take off again and do it better the next time. Some of the parts here will be very visible. I will be using rim paint, silverish color on top. See how that goes. And some parts are not really visible when they are put on. Like this, you won't see it. So this will just be having caliper grease on it. I have ordered some nickel plates, pure nickel. So I will try a similar procedure with nickel instead of zinc. Maybe zinc plate first and then nickel plate as the second coat. And that should leave a more shiny, nice finish. Also with rust protection. And I think it's a bit more scratch resistant. But this will be my experiment, and I hope at least it will stay rust-free during this season. And then comes the fun part. The final touches, and then putting new shiny parts back on the bike. These two first one, I will try just to polish them. And I'll just use a bit of grease to see how that goes. I have no idea if this is gonna be a success. Just one way to figure out. Maybe I need something more abrasive to get a bit more shiny finish. Okay, so this is how it looks before and after. It gets a bit more shiny, but it wasn't a big difference. And this is the satisfying part of the job, to be able to install these shiny new or old looking like new parts, rust protected. Even added some silicone grease here on the rubber to make it look shiny and nice. Here you can see the arm is painted with the rim spray paint, aluminium colored, while the axle is just pure zinc, polished a bit or rubbed in with the grease. The joy of putting everything together was suddenly disrupted. I finally cleaned this wheel. Looks nice. Except I took a peek at these bearings. Yeah, they are not good at all. It doesn't feel like it's a ball bearing. It feels like it's some square pegs inside here. It barely rotates. I need new bearings here. Okay, I also need a new tire. I have bought one already. So I think maybe I need to pause, look at my tasks, rearrange them. I need to order new bearings. I also have to do some work on the bike. That could be smart to do now, before I put the wheel back on. Like the cover underneath, it was heavily damaged, so I will make a new one. Yes, unfortunately, I think I'll have to put in a new task, high priority type red task. I really don't want to using this bike with the damaged bearings on the wheels. Yeah, okay, that was pity. Well, that's all for now then. Hope to see you again later in the next episode.